So I'm really excited to be talking today with Nina, who's going to introduce herself in just a moment. We work with a lot of founder-led businesses, tech companies, and the journey for a founder of hiring a first PM to join their organization, whether it's for the company or for a new line of business, is often a real journey. And I wanted to chat with Nina today to just talk about what her experience has been like as a product person who's had the chance to kind of be the first and only one. And as part of helping anyone listening today understand the complexity of this role, hoping that it helps you in the business that you're building. So, Nina, it's great to be chatting with you. Tell us a little bit about you. Give us a glimpse of your background, the types of products you've worked on, and just who you are.
Sure. So my name is Nina Paul. I was the VP of product at Clean Choice Energy, and I was their first PM as well. Prior to that, I worked for Live Like VR, also as their first PM, and I was there. So I've been in utilities, virtual reality. Before that, I was in IoT for connected vehicles, and the beginning of my career was in hospitality tech. So I've had a
I
long
love
career of all kinds of things.
And I love that you brought that up because if there's one thing that founders need to know about product folks is that, most product people really love the opportunity to solve new problems and work on interesting products, things that they've never done before. So that's often part of the attraction story when you go to market to hire is being open to really smart individuals, not necessarily those who have already done what you are trying to do, but someone who can approach a business without the bias, without any assumptions, and really apply discovery to the things that you're trying to achieve. So tell us a little bit, Nina. Bring us into a moment in time in your career. You pick which thing you want to talk about, but when you were the only PM at a company, talk a bit about the stage of the business and what were some of the things that were unfolding, respecting the fact that you won't be able to share everything for confidentiality reasons, but just give us a bit of a glimpse into that world that you stepped into.
Sure. So at my last company, when I stepped in, the company was already established. They'd been in business for about 6 years, doing predominantly direct mail marketing for the retail energy market, which is a complicated business that I will not get into for this. But they were they had won this grant from the Department of Energy called the Sunshot, which is a very prestigious grant to start up a new business line called Community Solar, which was giving local people access to renewable energy at a discount in exchange for helping small solar farms get on the grid. It was a subscription business and it would require Clean Choice to become like a full-scale utility for these subscriptions. So that included setting the customers up, acquiring customers, billing them, setting up a portal where customers could manage their payment information and see their plans, see their savings, and reporting for the owner of the farm because we were doing this like middle management for them.
Mm.
And so what I was told in my interview was that they had won this grant. It was worth $500,000, and they had just signed up a new farm in Brooklyn. It had not been under construction yet, and it was so small it could only support 10 subscriptions, and all of the subscribers were friends and family of the company. And the plan was to build out the prototype to get the full grant experience, and then we would go from there. What they did not tell me was that they had hired a whole team of business development professionals and they were out selling with, whatever wireframes that we had already put together. And I kid you not,
Wow.
I'd been there 6 weeks. On Christmas Eve, they called our office in New York, which had just started, and said, we've just signed this big portfolio of 10,000 customers, and they will need to start billing in 4 months.
So yay on the BD front, and wow, that must have really put tremendous kind of challenge and pressure on now the product having to deliver at a scale that, really no one was expecting.
No one was expecting,
Wow.
and no one was prepared for it.
Wow. So kind of what did that mean then? That kind of, yay moment. What did that mean to your role as a product person? How did that, like, what did that mean to what you then had to start to do?
I was very optimistic when we first started. I believed in our team very much, even though they were really junior. They definitely understood the product and what it was supposed to be. And we had a very highly detail-oriented operations team that were already digging into all of the rules around the billing, and they were deep into the individual subscriptions before New Year's even. Like they came off for Christmas, they came back and they were in it, right? They understood all of the different plans and stuff. But energy billing is extremely complicated. There is
Mm.
a reason why utilities pay billions of dollars to change their billing systems. This is not something you can do in 4 months with a team of mostly junior engineers that just got out of Code Academy. Like that is where they were at. Um, we did our best. The first iteration did not work at all. And for a couple of months, for several months, honestly, the operations team did their best to produce the bills manually. We hired some consultants in 2018. They did what consultants do, right? Like they tell you, here's what they gave us uh, a much higher scaled solution than we really needed. And like to this day, like a lot of the senior engineers that are still there that I'm still friends with, like we will make jokes about some of the stuff they came out with. Like we were doing publishing and subscribing or something. It was like the first time anybody had used a Lambda. And like we would still joke about pub sub because we heard about it so frequently.
One
It was
one of the things I'm curious about is what does the relationship look like between, a product person and the leader of the business, whether it's the founder or an outside CEO? Like, what is that relationship like? And is it challenging? Is it one where you often have to push back, or do they really understand the value of what it is that you're trying to do in their business at that stage of company?
In my experience, I didn't really have a lot of pushback from the founder in either of the times I was a founding PM. At Clean Choice, the CEO had, by his own admission, a bit of a short attention span. And so, he left a lot of things up to his deputies. I worked for the CTO. He was really out of his depth on this and trusted me pretty much completely with how we were going about this. Um, what was difficult for the rest of the business, which was like the established part of the business, was this community solar seemed to bleed into everything everyone else was doing. So suddenly there were so many people working on the side of their desk on this product that wasn't really bringing in any revenue and was eating up all of this extra time. And it was really putting the retail business behind. They had goals for becoming a digital first organization, expanding to new channels, and all that was put on hold because not only was our engineering team tied up in this billing thing for ages, but a lot of our other, marketers, data scientists, data engineers, they were also helping to support community solar, and all this stuff was on the back burner. And so I had a lot of problems with that because I wasn't really able to give accurate estimates because we were so out of our depth with a lot of this. And it was really a challenge to keep people like reassured that we were going to get there. And for the team, it was really just such a we had a lot of wins. We did have, the first time we actually got the bills working and we were putting them out was a very exciting night. But we were still like supporting it with up to 10 engineers per month, and that was just not sustainable.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, where it became a big difference was towards the end of the consulting engagement. I had had enough. And without really anybody's permission, I started reaching out to third-party vendors that specialize in this kind of, in like billing for subscriptions. And I found a good vendor that was very like simpatico with Salesforce. And we did a bunch of demos. There was a lot of like convincing people. By then they had brought on a CPO, and she was very resistant because of her own personal philosophy around what constitutes product. But she was overruled. Like I said, CEO with short attention span heard you can do this with third-party software for, a relatively inexpensive subscription price per month per year, and was like, just do it, get it done. And that was really like the turning point for our engineering team, for my own career, and for the company at large. We went from over 10 engineers supporting this like homemade billing system to less than one per month in a course of like 9 months. Uh,
Mm.
by then, I had become a director, and one of my employees, for an all-staff meeting, she created this hilarious graph to show how support had gone down. And engineers, they're all like silly. Uh, and they all have these hilarious Slack avatars. Like I can't even express to you how ridiculous they were. One guy was just like a piece of broccoli. And she took images of all of those funny avatars and put them into a bar graph showing how they were going down and down and down until it was just like half of an engineer. And it was like that was really the turning point for the company too, to see it in that clear visual, like we did it. This is
Mm.
not a problem anymore. Engineering is free. And by then they had leveled up significantly through everything that they had learned. Our budget had increased and we brought on some more senior people. We had an architect working with us part-time, and he was a great mentor and just very strategic on how we approach this integration. And that became like a turning point for the company. And after that, I started working on a major platform overhaul for
Mm.
the business at large that would go on to last for the next 5 years of my career.
Just in listening to you describe this incredible story, what I'm hearing is that, if someone says yes to being the first or the only product manager in a company that's still led by a founder, you have to be prepared for anything. And that the role and your focus will shift according to the needs of the business. And I think that's something no one can really adequately explain in an interview process. Things could change overnight. And then you're now moving in this direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was really like when I went into management and ultimately became the vice president of product, which was when I was leading the entire department. That was really how I approached it. My own interview at Clean Choice, I wish I had asked more about what was the trajectory of the community solar program and had not just said, oh, okay, well, it's going to be like a pilot. It'll be fine. Like who else is working on this? I wish I had asked that. Like what's your business development plan? Because honestly, I had the same problem in my previous job where like business development was already like going and we were working off a prototype we were really struggling to scale. And so I would ask about that for sure. I would ask about the maybe I don't want to say competency, but like what is the level of engineering at? Had so many other great qualities, and I genuinely believe that if he was anybody else, the whole team would have quit. Like
Mm.
it was so much how he managed the team and how culture was taken,
Yeah.
that really mattered. And I'd ask that too. Like, what are your expectations? The nice thing about a lot of new startups is they're remote first. And so there's more respect being paid to work-life balance. But just as many are saying they're working 996 and joking about or taking pictures of their employees in the hospital or something. And like that's not the flex you think it is for sure. But I would be concerned about that. Like
Yeah.
that was really the reason I left LiveLike, my previous job, because the hours were crazy. There was really no time ever. You were never really off. You have unlimited PTO and you never got to take it because someone was always calling you. And so I'd definitely be concerned. I would ask that like upfront because the truth is like, for a lot of founders, this is their baby, right? Like they've put everything on the line to do this. And, they're the ones on the hook if their investors don't see their returns. But the truth is, you know, you can't treat your employees that way. And I think, what I really appreciated about my time at Clean Choice was that even though our CTO was under a lot of pressure to produce some results, he never really let that in for the rest of the team. He was the first one to tell people to go home at 5 o'clock. And, he would come out and joke around with them and tell them, we didn't have a lot of late nights, frankly. Like he was very against that. But when he did, he would buy dinner and he would reprise his past life when he worked on the Obama campaign or some of his other hilarious stories. He had been a tutor for one of the Manning brothers. I can never remember which one, yeah. So he had a fascinating life and everybody loved him for it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think had he not been the person leading this, I don't know that they would have continued to go for it. It brought a
Mm-hmm.
lot of inspiration to the whole team. The lead engineer, every time they had even the tiniest win, he would come to me and he'd say, Nina, team is nice, nice. And it was so funny. And, he went on to become the director of engineering. He led a team of 70. And, to see them all really like level up that way was so inspiring. And I'm so appreciative of my time there.
Nina, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing your experience and your insights. And there's it's a career is a long game. It's a long roadmap, you know. And there's different points where you have the benefit of kind of sometimes being thrust into situations you weren't expecting. And and that's that opportunity, right? You're going to rise up as you did and be able to look back on that experience in a reflective way and think, wow, like we did that.
Yeah.
And I'm a better leader now because I had that, unexpected situation. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants to connect with Nina, we're going to include her credentials and all of her information in the comments below. And again, we'll see you in the next one. Have a great
Thank you.
day.